Medical research. Actually, my medical research is TLR receptors, gamma delta T cells, and that's got absolutely nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about tonight. My medical research actually is really quite separate. What I'm going to talk about is the insights and the developments that I've been able to realise from the position, from being very luckily in the position that I'm in, from actually being a doctor. And I don't think, no matter how many other titles that you acquire in your life, I don't think you can ever take the clinician out of the doctor. So actually, it's not about gamma delta T cells or newer assays. It's about some things that we would like to improve for our patients. This is a personal case study. And I was in an I&E meeting and chatting, and Errol Cox said to me, she said, "Oh yes, Judith, with that portfolio, we'll have to speak to Dominic about such and such." I'm thinking, oh yes, that must mean I have a portfolio. Now then, I'm not a businesswoman. I'm an academic. I don't think in those terms. I don't think about products coming through. I think about what matters, and that's how I realise my ideas. It comes from a very different, that's the direction that I work from. So yes, I appear to have a portfolio, which is nice. And actually it's been a lot of fun. Very, very different from everything I do, and I want to do more of it. And I have a pipeline. And I'm not going to tell you what the rest of the pipeline is, because I've been coached now by my fantastic RACD people to mostly keep my mouth shut and not publish things just when I have a very good idea. I know how not to do a thing. So here we have a very simple medical device. This is called a cricoid yoke. A cricoid yoke, for those of you who have no idea about these things, is a device for applying pressure to the front of the neck when patients are having emergency surgery. It's a simple physical device that stops you vomiting and aspirating your stomach contents, thus causing a very nasty pneumonitis. That's a very nasty thing to have, and it can kill you. So anyway, nobody had developed a cricoid yoke. The standard technique is to practice with your 2 fingers and press on the front of the patient's neck. So we thought, well, we need to standardize this because we knew what force is required to achieve the end result. So it's very Heath Robinson, isn't it? It's actually all you need. So we got into our little workshop, we knocked this up, we used it, and actually, if you developed it and developed it and developed it in the way I would like to see it, it would be a fantastically sophisticated, subtle, and useful medical device. But by this time, we'd published, we'd taken it to international meetings, etc., 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 and we ourselves had already been through a few prototypes into developing, so you get biofeedback, all of this stuff. Anyway, we know now how not to do things. You, as business people, perhaps you know these things from the outset. I thought what I'd do is actually work backwards and talk about the companies that we have a relationship with, industry. And because each of them is really quite different in the kind of relationships that we have and the things that we do together to give mutual benefit for both industry and academia. And the first, a very, very simple example, for many years we've tested, just simple testing. This is a way of generating money. We've got physicists, we've got experts, and we've got our own physics lab, and we can test equipment. We've done that for years. And that's grown with a company like Covidian to do consultancy, and a lot of academics do consultancy. And recently we've been producing materials for them, but we've adapted and developed the materials, and we're actually using them and publishing them. So Covidian get the materials they want, we actually get publications in anaesthetic academic journals. That's a nice, simple, straightforward relationship. And because we have a very long history of producing this sort of thing, companies come to us. NAP. NAP is a major pharmaceutical company based on medication for acute and specifically for a chronic pain. And they are very, very, very important to my department. Extraordinarily important. It's given security to half of my department. Sorry, I should say section, but then I'll get into trouble. We have a NAP sponsored senior lecturer. And when I took over the department, we had people on 3-month contracts. It was we were in dire situation. NAP have done a lot for my department. Apart from sponsoring the senior lecturer for the last 2 years, and we're just negotiating a 5-year deal for actually a lot more, they've enabled us to set up for our very, very, very successful MSc in chronic pain management, a GP module, so that, because as you know, that pain management is devolving into the community. We've set up a pain community centre, and you know what? We've got this fantastic website, and just in the tiniest letters at the bottom, it says NAP. There is no marketing, it's our intellectual property. It feels very altruistic. It is very altruistic. We own it. We own the material. But they've given an awful lot of money to develop this. And it's badged for the School of Medicine. They've chosen us. They went to Edinburgh first. They didn't produce the goods. They came to us. We did produce the goods. The sponsorship that we get for the last 2 years, and hopefully, if we secure it for the next 5, that's a lot of money for Cardiff University. And NAP are presumably getting exactly what they want from it. Technovent. Let's go small. Technovent. That's Gollum. Technovent MBI in Newport made Gollum. They make Max-Fax prosthesis. They're a very nice, very clever, very small Welsh company that's doing well. Now then, this time, we went to them. Tony and I went to see Mark Waters in Technovent with an idea. The idea was actually too complicated. We're going to do the idea next. So we defaulted to a simpler idea. We wanted to build a training aid, an epidural simulator. Claire Harvey from RACD, you always get a minder. I don't mind that, they keep you right. Came along and we pitched to them. And they said, yes, we can do that. We gave them a cheese model of how the epidural space is constructed, the different ligaments feeling in very different ways. We understand that clinically. It's very difficult to teach. So we said, okay, we want to do this. So we applied for an NIHR Eye4Eye grant, and we give them some money. Everybody I'm not complaining about business, I like business, but business always says, oh, it's one way. It's not. Well, it's not with us. I doubt if it's one way anyway. So we are actually funding this work in MBI. And you know what? We are ahead of said schedule. This is so easy. This grant, we are months ahead of what we planned to do. This is not usual with my grants. We're already thinking about commercialisation. Now, what I would really like is that Wales hadn't pulled out of Eye4Eye, because I would like the 3B or whatever. It's my favourite hobby horse. I want more Eye4Eye. In fact, if I knew they were going to stop the Eye4Eye, I'd have applied for 5 all at the same time, because it's exactly the right grant for a person like me. So anyway, somehow we've got to get some money for the next stage, because this is really successful. What's the next move? You tell me. Help me.